9 months, a year went by, there's still no words, there's still no babbling, nothing. He's not hitting any milestones. And they sit me down and they say, Natalie, Jackson may have additional needs. We think he'd be better in our SEN nursery. And I said, well, what does SEN mean? What is that? Oh, it stands for special educational needs. And they gently took me through the report and I just burst into tears. I didn't want that to be real. I didn't want him to be special needs. And once I took a deep breath and slapped myself across the face and realised that it's not about me, it's about Jackson, we said, okay, thank you for being honest, thank you for telling me, and thank you very much for offering us a place.
Natalie, welcome to our podcast and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And tell me a little bit about growing up and your life before business, entering into business. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, my parents split up when I was 4. So that was difficult because we didn't have a lot. I lived with my mum and my sister, and we went from council house to council house, council flats, 15-storey building, council flat. That was quite a scary place because the only memories I have from that place was the smell of urine.
Wonderful.
Blood being on the walls, lots of graffiti, lots of bad language, the bad memories from there. And I was very young, so I didn't have great memories of that. And I remember my mother really struggling with money. I remember we go from childminder to childminder because my mum had to work so many hours. I don't remember seeing my dad a lot as a child.
Tell me the next part about how that spurred you on emotionally to get to where you are today.
Oh, so my childhood is the reason why I am where I am today, 100%, because I didn't want to struggle. I didn't want to be in council properties. I didn't want to be the only child without new shoes, or, it was really tough in school having to have hand-me-downs all the time, which I'm grateful for. Like we weren't starved or neglected. We just didn't have a lot or anything really. So I knew that when I grew up, I knew that was not going to be my life, and that I would work hard. And I, at a young age, knew. Well, I always said I never wanted children. And then I realised that actually I do want children. I just don't want them to suffer like I did. So I thought, right, I'm going to be an older mum. I'm going to make my foundation. I'm going to grow that business. And then I'm going to have a child, because then that child will have everything that I wasn't able to have. And he or she will have an amazing life. They won't be spoilt, but they won't wake up freezing cold with blue lips because we couldn't afford to have the heating on. They won't go without. They won't have holes in their shoes. They won't have me cut their hair like my parents. Like my mum cut my hair.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Yeah. And it was a bad job. She tried her best. But, no. So he'll go to the hairdressers or the barbers, and, he'll have that. And that's what I knew. I knew that wouldn't, my children or child, I've only got one, he will not suffer like I suffered. But like I say, it wasn't neglect, or we weren't starved to death or beaten. It was just that we didn't have the things that children should have.
So emotionally, I feel that I can feel the pain that you endured. It's a little bit unfair because I do actually know your story. You're my best friend, so I know. But I would like to take the listeners through feeling, the catalyst, the hunger, the inner Eid of you that said, I have to do this. So what was next?
So I'm not an overly academic person, as you know. I love talking, and I can talk all day long. But when it comes to school, I was diagnosed with dyslexia, And that's a struggle, especially when it comes to running a business, as you know, Gary. But I didn't let that stop me. So when I was younger, I knew that I wanted to do something with people. I loved working with people, and I loved helping people. So I wanted to be a nurse. And I have 6 aunties, and they're all nurses, and they said, you'd make a great nurse. But as time went on, I realised that they work so hard throughout the night, and their pay's very little. And as much as I love helping people, that wasn't what I was thinking. So I also liked making people feel good and look good. And I was always trying different things with my mum's makeup bag. So not that she had much makeup in there, because, she could afford it. But so my journey was, because I wasn't very great at school, half of a day out of the 5 days that we went to school, I was allowed to go to college and do something that I loved to do. So I signed up for beauty, and they let me do it for 3 hours on a Wednesday at my school. And I thought that was amazing, and that started me off on my journey. And then I got a job at 14 years old in a hair and beauty salon, and I worked there on a Thursday night after school. I went straight from school, got the bus, and I worked there from 4 till 9. And then on Saturday, I worked every single Saturday, and I got £13 a week.
Amazing.
For doing that.
What did you spend it on?
Well, this is when I realised, the first time I got my £13 paycheck, I went to the newsagents immediately, and I bought loads of sweets and a magazine. And within a very short period of time, I realised that it had gone. And I thought, my God, it's taken me so long to earn that, and I've spent it so quickly. And that's what made me realise, actually, it is hard to earn it, and it's gone so quickly. So you should save. So I did. Every week, I just saved and saved and saved, and I didn't spend it. And then before I knew it, I had like £100. And then I decided I was offered another job at another salon that was just beauty, because I realised, being in the hair and beauty industry, that hair really wasn't for me, and I loved the beauty side. So,
I'm laughing just because we've had some moments with hair before.
Yeah. Even today, I was like, I have got a Bridget Jones hair moment. Can someone sort my hair out?
Natalie.
So I decided to just go into beauty. I got offered this job, and it was £2.50 an hour, and I thought I was rich. I was like, brilliant, this is amazing. So I did the same hours, the Thursday after school and the Saturday, and then they asked me to do another evening, because this particular salon, they opened every night until 10 o'clock it was. But I couldn't do every single night. I still had homework. So I did 2 nights and a Saturday, and then when I left school, they offered me an apprenticeship, which I took. And then when I was 18, I was headhunted at a salon in London, and I didn't even care about the salary by that point. I just wanted to go, because I knew that it would benefit me. And it was in a hair and beauty salon, 5-star salon, and it had they had lots and lots of different celebrities there, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. And I worked there for a couple of years, but then my home life took a plummet. My mum's partner, so my stepdad, who she'd been with since I was 11, was diagnosed with cancer, and my mum had just had another baby. So it was very tough at home, and I thought that she needed me. So I stopped working there, and I helped out with my little brother. And then when he got to 3, his dad passed away. So my mum was on her own with him again. So now the second time round, she was a single parent. But this time she had me and my sister. But my sister was very, very heavily into her dance career. She was an amazing dancer, and she lived in London. So I went home, I helped. I quit the job that I loved, but it was the right thing to do at the right time.
What I'm hearing is the lessons that you've learned were always the decisions, although they were hard, got you to the next stage. So from that journey then of being co-parent at that time, explains a lot about the relationship that you have with Ben and your mum. But moving forward to that, what was the first part about the business and emotionally, how that connected?
Well, I always felt as a child, if I'm really honest, that I was never enough. Like I always wanted to please everybody. I didn't feel good enough. So I wanted to be enough. And I thought, if I have my own business and I create that myself, then I'm going to be enough. So I thought, I don't care how much it costs me. I don't care how hard I have to work. I don't care how much money I need to borrow. I am going to have my own salon because that's what I want. I wanted it. I didn't care how I got it. I knew that I would get it, and I did.
Stay through the first step into business.
So after working at the salon in London, I then got a part-time job close to home, and within a few months they'd asked me to be manager and go full-time, which I then declined because the whole point of me going from full-time to part-time is to help at home. I stayed there for a few years, then they promoted me again. Then I did take the job, but I realised that actually I can do this. If they're asking me to be manager, I know that I can do this myself. So I then decided to rent a room as a beauty therapist in a hair salon. And within months, I was fully booked, back to back every day. But my academic side was shocking. So I'd forget to make notes. I would forget to, what the client's name was, booking the appointment. But the actual treatment side was amazing. Like, I'm really practical side that I was flying at. And that's what people come in for. They come in for, they want a good treatment and a nice person. So that I was flying at, but the accounts and the business side, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I need help with this. So then I got myself a really good accountant, and I got myself a little PA, who's not really a PA. It was my husband.
Oh, is that what they're going to call Dad? Listen, on the Christmas card, it's to Natalie and her PA. And
my PA.
Love that.
He was amazing. So he helped me sort out a few things, and so that I could just put things in a schedule and know what I was doing correctly. Because you're not perfect. None of us are perfect. And we always have our strengths and weaknesses, don't we? And he was my rock from the start.
Like Gary
support. It's the support network. So what a great story so far. It's that support network which you have to tap into when you make those first steps in business.
And what would you call it? I know exactly what you'd call it.
Well, what's interesting is people are really passionate to know those tiny little steps that you take from not being in business to being in business. And it's great how the story was. You had a great job, and you've let go of that job to be close to home, and then you've popped back for the part-time, and that's really good, because I think a lot of people will be able to associate with that. But how clever to do the part-time bit and then move into renting the room, so minimise the fear of going into business. Because there always is that fear, am I doing the right thing? And then recognising the lack of skills in terms of the paperwork and getting that support system around you. It's great. And a lot of people will be able to associate with those early steps in business. So great story. Great story.
Thanks, Gary.
So we've got a room. We've got a business. We've got a PA, which I absolutely love the gossip. We've got a PA. We're going to get him a little outfit. We're going to go in. So we're there, and the salon takes off. You take the risk of your business. How long are you trading before?
So after I rented the room, that's when I realised I need to do some academic business side of things. So I went to work in a beauty industrial, what are they called? The place where you buy all the products from.
Wholesale.
Thank you. And I thought, right, this is going to really help me understand products and how to
You bought them all.
Yeah, well, I became assistant manager at this particular wholesalers, and I can't say that I enjoyed it at all, to be honest, but I knew that I had to do something for my future journey. I survived there for a year, and then I thought, right, now I know, I am really good at my practical. Now I know the business side and the more of the accounting side. Even though I've got an accountant and now he's my bookkeeper as well, I just know so much more than I ever did. So then I thought, right, I have all the tools, everything in place. Now I'm going to go to my Barclays bank and ask them to lend me some money. So I had to prove to them that I could pay it back. So I took out a nice big fat loan, and I bought my salon.
Amazing.
And the first 3 years, I worked probably about 60 hours a week. I didn't take a holiday, and I passed out on a regular basis with exhaustion and stress.
Real life. Real business life.
I remember with a client, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to pass out. Before I could even say anything, I was halfway out the door and fainted. And I remember one of the girls screaming, saying, "Natalie's fainted again." It's so unhealthy. Like, I shouldn't be laughing about it, but it's really unhealthy. But at the time, I was like, I have to do this. I have to keep going, and I will keep going. So I would get up, I'd just have a cup of tea with some sugar and go straight back in.
When you say I have to do this, where is that from? What gives you that feeling?
I think it was the fear of failing and the feeling of not being enough.
And that comes, you think, from home?
From childhood, definitely. Yeah.
So you spoke about a great step that you took. So you've got the accountant. I'm just taking you back in this journey because I think it's so important for the people listening. So you got the accountant, but you got a bookkeeper as well, and to match the skills that you felt you were lacking or not had the time to do, more like it. So the bookkeeper step. So one day you have a bookkeeper, but what was it like, that transition on where did you go? How did you get that bookkeeper?
So I had the accountant first, and then it was a few years through having the business that I thought I was becoming busier and busier, and I thought I just haven't got the time. Mm-hmm. Or, being honest, the mental capacity. Like I knew that if I didn't do it properly, there'd be more stress. Because, it's HMRC, you've got to do it properly. Yeah. So I thought, I'm going to pay someone to do this. And it was like a massive weight off my shoulders. I felt lifted. I was like, this is brilliant. You need an accountant, you need a bookkeeper. They're expensive, but you need them.
Fantastic lesson.
Take the stress off.
Really, so fantastic. I just love those little golden nuggets in business. Those early steps are just so important. So brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah, very important for me. And I felt that, like I said, it was a weight lifted.
Did you notice the next person was what happened as you grew from there? Because you said the bookkeeper took a weight off you. Did that happen again? So through the journey, I've had my salon now for 15 years this year. Wow.
I have found that certain members of staff have definitely helped take weight off, but it's been very difficult for me to trust over the years because there's been a lot of there's a lot of jealousy in business. Definitely, a lot of people only see the top of that pyramid, the top of the iceberg. They don't see how hard you've climbed to get there. But I'm lucky, my staff are lovely, incredible human beings, and I've got an amazing manager now. And now I have the best manager. And I feel very lucky to have my team. I feel lucky to have, don't get me wrong, we've had rocky moments. It's not always been plain sailing. But they are a really lovely team. They're strong. We're a strong team now. I think now we have a strong team, and we are all lucky to have each other. I think if wherever you are, whatever you do, you can always think the grass is greener. And if you think that, then you must go and explore the greener grass.
And then comes back straight where you started. Natalie, I'd like you to take me to the start of your journey as motherhood. Talk me through.
Okay. So I always... Well, I didn't always. I realised that I was going to be an older mother because my salon was my first baby. And
really good acknowledgement, by the way.
Thank you. And I nurtured that baby for 10 years before we had a pandemic. And then when we were all sitting at home twiddling our thumbs, eating cake, I was like, oh, there's more to life than just working 6 days a week, continuous. So, and I was very grateful, actually, to be at home resting because I was pregnant. So it was for me, I quite liked the peace and quiet and the rest and the calm and not worrying about anything to do with the business. It was like my first break in 10 years. I mean, I did courses online, but I really enjoyed the lay-ins and the walks around the garden. It was just, for me, the sun was shining and I was pregnant and I just bonded with my baby in my tummy. It was really nice. So when I had my son, it was in the pandemic. It was a difficult time because our partners weren't allowed to be there. We weren't allowed to have any support. I was in the hospital on my own to start off with. Then we realised there were some complications and some problems. So then my husband was allowed to come in, thank God. And after 22 hours, Jackson was then delivered by emergency caesarean and taken immediately into intensive care for 4 days. So that was really tough because Dan wasn't allowed to be with me. Nobody was allowed to be with me. So I was on my own in hospital without my son, because in a ward with other mums and their children, and he was in intensive care alone. So that was really, really, really tough. Probably tougher than even starting my own business. And then when we finally left the hospital, originally they said that he may have to be rushed to St Thomas's for surgery, which broke me. But luckily, I was praying and praying that wasn't the case, and it wasn't in the end. When we were finally allowed home, it was, again, lonely because nobody could visit, no parents, no friends, no nothing. So you're on your own with this baby, with no manual and no guidance, no midwife. And you're like, what do I do? Like, obviously your mother instincts kick in. But I'd been through like a horrendous, traumatic birth. And I felt really lonely and really down.
You think the absence of the business didn't help either?
No, if I'm honest, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just thinking about Jackson. I was thinking about my son and hoping that he would recover from this trauma, and I just wanted to be me and him. I just wanted to nurture him and look after him like I had with my first baby, the business. And then as time went on, things were better, things were fine. I got used to not much sleep, and
Says every mother.
and then when we hit the 6-month mark was the first time we saw a midwife. And was it a midwife? What are they called afterwards? Is it midwife? Yes. Okay. So they come to the house and they check that they're doing all these checks, and we'd come out of the pandemic by then. And she was like, "Oh, he's not hitting any of the milestones." I was like, "Sorry, what do you mean milestones? Like what?" I'd never even been around other people with children. My life was my business. So she said, "Oh, he's not." You know, she had this paperwork, and it was ticking all of these boxes that he hadn't, the milestones that he hadn't hit. I was like, "Okay, so what does that mean then?" And she couldn't really give me any answers. But she said, "Oh, we'll just keep monitoring him." And then I went to my GP, and he was sent for hearing tests because he never had any of the tests when he was, the little red book shows that he didn't have, and nothing was written in there. So we don't know if he had a hearing test when he was born or... And I don't blame the hospital or anyone. There's no blame here. It's just, they were under a lot of pressure. So maybe they did do it and it wasn't written down, or maybe they didn't do it. I don't know. Anyway, we went for some tests. He saw an audiologist, I think that's what they're called, for the hearing. He saw an ear, nose and throat specialist. And it turns out that he had glue ear. So his balance was off. That would explain why there's... the midwife said this will explain why there's not a lot of verbal noise, nothing, there's no any of the noises that they make at that age. But I didn't know any different because I never had a child before.
Yeah, of course.
So Jackson was sent to we went private because the NHS was so overrun. The waiting list was through the roof, and I thought, okay, well, we'll do it. We'll just go private. And I'm very lucky to have been in that situation from my hard work that I could afford to go privately, because that's something my parents would never have been able to afford. And that's why I chose to be an older mum, so that I never would be in that situation that I was in, going back to that. So anyway, long story short, turns out Jackson had glue ear in both ears. So he was on 2 courses of antibiotics, lots more tests. And then as time went on, so 9 months, a year went by, there's still no words, there's still no babbling, nothing. He's not even sitting up by this point. He's not hitting any milestones. So he's at nursery, and they call for a meeting with me. And there's three of them who are the owner and the 2 seniors. And they sit me down and they say, "Natalie, we think that Jackson may have additional needs," because they're not allowed to say, "We think he's autistic." But now I know that's what they meant. But they said, "We think he has additional needs. We think he'd be better in our SEN nursery, and we will give you a place there." And I said, what does SEN mean? What is that? "Oh, it stands for special educational needs." Why would you say that my son has special educational needs? And they gently took me through the report that Jackson wasn't hitting any of the milestones at all. And I just burst into tears because I didn't want that to be real. I didn't want him to be special needs. I didn't want him to be classed as a special needs child. That really knocked me. But I listened to them. They're the professionals. I listened to them. And once I took a deep breath and slapped myself across the face and realised that it's not about me, it's about Jackson, I had a conversation with my husband, and we said, "Okay, thank you for being honest. Thank you for telling me. And thank you very much for offering us a place."
Before we continue, that point is causes a reaction for me, for you. Why do you think that instant reaction happened that you didn't want it?
Because I wanted him to be normal, whatever normal is. Being honest, I didn't ask to be a carer. I asked to be a mum. I wanted to be a mum, but a lot of the time I feel like a carer. Given that, Jackson's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I love him more than anything. But answering your question, I wanted him to be normal, whatever normal is. I wanted him to be in a mainstream school. That's the truth.
And how do you think people listening that may be in exactly that point in their life that you was in, how would you
I have
offer
a big
them?
message for those lovely mums. I want you to know that having a special needs child is a gift. We have been gifted. They are the most precious, beautiful souls. And I feel so lucky and so grateful now that I have Jackson. And if I'm being really honest, which I will be, I'm quite glad he's not going to a mainstream school. Because there's so much pressure and bullying, and it's so scary. I remember going to school thinking, oh, I don't have the right shoes, or, my hair, or I've got hairy legs or hairy arms as a girl. You get picked on for everything. You can never be enough. You can never be perfect. So the fact that my son is going to a school where he will be accepted for who he is, that's just amazing for me. I think that now, what is normal? What do we define normal? He's a very special, beautiful soul. My boy will give me the biggest cuddles, the biggest kisses. And because I'm an older mum, I don't have to work full time anymore. I made that choice to be an older mum so that I could work less hours, so that I could spend that time with my children. And I spend a lot of time with Jackson. I give him so much love and support. And love is the biggest. Like if you can give your child hugs and kisses and just be with them, play with them, because one day they won't want you to play with them. So just play with them and enjoy them. I love playing with Jackson. Like he makes me so happy. Like I wake up in the morning and if he hasn't run into my bedroom, I'm like, I go and get him. And I bring him in for a little snuggle. He's still asleep, but he snuggles up to me and I love it. I enjoy being with him. He's such a special soul. And he's so happy. He can't talk. He doesn't say anything. He's never said mama, dada, nothing. But he's happy and he's healthy. He's got all his fingers, all his toes. He looks beautiful. He has all of his 6 senses. He's a perfect human being, and I love him so much, and I'm grateful.
Taking that from that journey, because it's been life-changing, A, to watch, and secondly, to go through with you and your PA. He's gonna love that.
He's gonna hate me for that.
I want to just loop back round to, at the time, because I was there, it was tough. Jackson wasn't diagnosed, but we were going through assessments. The business was tough. There were changes. There was different managers, different staff, different treatments. You're learning. Talk us through that and coping, having a special needs child and running a business at that magnitude, because I think that's really superhero level, but it's really important to be honest and vulnerable and show the listeners exactly what that took every day, because no one saw it.
After the pandemic, after I had Jackson, my business took a hit. And I felt unsupported in many ways. And I believe that the reason why I was so unsupported is because nobody understood what I was going through. to my work colleagues, it looked like I was living the life of Riley. I was working 3 days a week, and I was at home with my baby. That's what it looked like. But to me, I was suffering. I had a lot of wages to pay. I had rent that we never, we didn't get a clause to not pay. You still have to pay everything. You still have to pay all your loans and all your debts. Plus looking after my little boy who'd come out of intensive care. Yeah, I really struggled. It was probably one of the hardest times. And to be honest with you, I would say that the team I have now is the best team that I could possibly have. The team back then, I maybe should have changed sooner, but that's nobody's fault but mine. I couldn't put my heart and soul into the business, and the support there wasn't the best. So I felt that it was a struggle. Looking back, I should have made some changes, but you can't be in two places at once. And this is why running a business and having a baby, you just can't do it all at once. You can't start up a business and have a baby at the same time. It's not possible.
So let's tell the listeners how you got there. What changed?
I had my business for 10 years and it was a solid foundation. So once, even though there were extreme hits after the pandemic, so after 10 years of having the business and after having my son, because I'd built a solid foundation, that's why it survived. Otherwise, I don't think it would have. That's being honest. So you build a solid foundation first. That's my point. You build the foundation. You have good members of staff that you can trust, that are loyal. The loyalty is important, and trust. And
So there's some lessons there, because you've got a great team now.
Now I have.
And you realise now that that's a slightly better team than you had previously.
Yeah.
So are there some tips that we can give to people out there on building this team?
I always thought that I was a good judge of character, to be honest. And I love a lot. So I use the word love every day, all day. I'll say, I love you. Thank you so much for doing that for me. Oh, I love that decoration that you've done. So I think because of the way I love hard, I'm kind, I'm generous, I'm supporting of my staff. And sometimes I think that's really appreciated, but sometimes I think it's taken for granted. I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to make sure if I do it, then it's done properly. But I need to. That's bad in business. I need to let that. And I have now. I've learnt the hard way over the years.
So if there's people out there who are control freaks as well, as you put it,
Yep.
Have you got better?
Yes, so much. You have to, because you can't do everything.
Okay.
You cannot. You'll exhaust yourself. You'll run yourself into the ground, and then you'll fail anyway.
Okay.
I wonder if
It's another lesson, isn't it? It's fantastic.
I think becoming a mum and having Jackson, that is when you pivoted. Because
I let my guard down big time at business when I had my son.
I don't think that. I think you believe in terms of the universe, in terms of the alignment for yourself. But what a great lesson. You were gifted Jackson and you had no choice but to learn, to trust, to employ different people. And I've sat beside you on that, and I've watched it grow, and we speak about it often, and I always praise you in terms of those parts I know you struggled with, and watching that transform is actually what you needed but couldn't do, and you wouldn't have done, Natalie, before becoming a mum. I truly believe that Jackson, the gift of having Jackson, has changed your character in so many ways. Patience, acceptance.
Change you from being the control freak that...
Yeah, because you can't control that.
So I would never, ever sit down in the middle of the day and just have a cup of tea or coffee or read a book. I would never have done that.
Is
Jackson,
that guilt?
Yes, I think so. As a child, we were. I remember coming home after school, putting the telly on and raiding the fridge. And I remember twitching the blinds to see if my mum's car was to drive up onto the
estate.
As we got older, we didn't need a childminder then. And I shout to my sister, quick, she's coming, get the Hoover. We'd turn the telly off, we'd put all the sweets away, we'd get the Hoover out, start doing the windows, because it was not allowed to just be sitting down relaxing. You'd have to be, you should be doing something. So as I've got older, I just never could sit down in the middle of the day and not do anything. But Jackson comes and gets me, my 4-year-old child that cannot speak, gets my arm, sits me down and brings a Peppa Pig book and sits me on the sofa. And obviously I'm not going to say no, of course I'm going to sit there and read to him. He'll curl up and he'll take a nap. And I think, I can't move because he's here. Oh, this feels really awkward. I don't know what to do. Like, obviously I want to cuddle my son, but I'm sitting down in the middle of the day. And he's taught me to rest. And it feels great. I love taking a half hour.
Now she's queen a nap. She's like, do you want to come over a cup of tea and a nap? I'm like, no, it's 12 o'clock and I've got shit to do.
This is another thing that I would say to mums. You need to have a break away from your children. Do not feel bad. You are an incredible, amazing mum. And you need a break. When the government give you 28 days holiday a year from work, right? Because they recognise that you need a break. But as a mum, you don't get any of that. So I'm telling you, as a mother, you need a break. Nobody wants to be with anybody 24/7. So I love my husband, I love my friends, I love my family.
Hello.
But I won't want to be with them all the time. You need a break from all of them, right? I love my clients, I love my work staff. I don't want to be with them all the time. You need a break from everybody. And when you leave for a weekend, 3 or 4 days, a week if you want to, once you go back, you would have missed your child would have missed you, they would appreciate you more, you'll appreciate them. And, when you get back, you want to spend time with them and you don't mind the high-pitched screaming because you've had a break from it. It's so important to rest your mind and your ears. You've got to take that time for yourself. You're a better wife, you're a better mother, you're a better worker. You need a break. Don't feel bad about it. And don't let anyone make you feel bad about it. That's what I've learnt.
Well, from everyone, I'm beyond proud of you.
Oh, thanks.
You're one of my closest friends. I've seen it all. We've had lots of ups and downs on this journey, especially with Jackson. And I think not only have you created the most unbelievable business and atmosphere and a world that when people go into your salon, you feel it. It's a home from home. But as a mum and as a human being, you've grown so much in the last 5 years, and I'm beyond proud.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely. Thanks.
An emotional story.
So emotional.
Really emotional. So trying to dampen down the emotion and look from the business point of view, processes are in place and it's allowing time from the business. And she's going back in the business 3-4 days a week, and the business is still running and still generating income and profit and processes. And more processes will develop.
She doesn't realise, but she's enabled herself to work on it, not in it.
Both. She's working in it, but she's working because she's working on the business, and she's also working in being a mum. She's working in being a mum and on being a mum because she's not there all the time as well. So, I mean, it's great lessons. Just.
And then to go on the journey she did with Jackson. And I can only imagine the acceptance level was tenfold of being the mother that I was, because I didn't have that additional challenge. And she still wanted the acceptance, still wanted that business drive, still wanted to prove, and didn't really want that diagnosis. But actually, watching her grow in the last 5 years, it's been the best thing that's happened to the business, to their life. So amazing foundation to have grown, and to prove that your life doesn't need to stop. You know,
and
even
still feels guilty if she sits down in the middle of the day, even though she's got a great business with processes, and still feels guilty, and she's being a mum at the same time. I mean, hundreds of lessons.
These women and founders and parents are superheroes.
I know. And it comes through again, the story, isn't it? Is not having the things that one wanted as a child. And it's that driving force, isn't it, to succeed, do well, provide for themselves, not relying on other people, being let down maybe, not being let down by mummy or daddy, but only the fact that mummy or daddy were not together, really, which causes the I suppose, a slight distress, isn't it, in the child? So,
what an amazing episode. I feel so fortunate that she's one of my best friends. I feel a little bit emotional as well. I was a little bit apprehensive because I love Jackson very much, and I love Natalie and her PA.
And the PAs.
Her PA's not my number. You wait till the Christmas card, Dan, it's coming your way. Thanks so much for listening to our episode, and what an exciting and heartwarming story we've had today.
Yes, super.